So hey guys, today we're going to talk about the subclasses and the race complementary to my optimization. So I know that this is a big topic and there is a lot of choices in the story and the whole books of DnD. So today I'm going to have some limitations regarding my picks and I'm going to express to you why I think these are optimal. So to begin with, we are limiting ourselves to 4 books: the Player's Handbook, Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, Coast's Adventure Guide, as well as Xanathar's Guide to Everything. The reason for this is because I recently played with these limitations, so I have more time to invest and understand these races as well as these classes. We are also going to focus on the casters today, the full casters. So the reason for this is because, as you know, I am more versed with the study of the casters. I am not that good when it comes to the discussion of marshals or half-casters. So I'm going to stick with what I know. So the Warlock will not be mentioned in this video. The Warlock itself is a full caster because it gets all the full level spell casting, and it's just worked differently because it is not using spell casting, it's using pet magic. So for the sake of understanding and simplicity, I'm going to focus on the 5 prime casters in D&D, which is the Bard, the Cleric, the Druid, the Sorcerer, and the Wizard. So I'm going to start with the Bard. The Bard is easily the best phase in the game. Going into their strength as a phase of the party will be my flavorful optimization. Immediately, I'm looking at the Eloquence Bard. So the Eloquence Bard is a very powerful subclass, probably optimized by many people's standard already, but I'm going to explain a little bit why they are optimized. So for the Eloquence Bard, you're looking at the level 3 feature that gives you the ability to basically always succeed in certain charisma checks. You also have the ability to debuff your enemy so they fail their control saves more easily. And for level 6 and 14, the Eloquence Bard have the ability to allows the allies who have Bardic Inspiration to keep the die if they fail, and if they succeed, then another ally will benefit from it. So to me, this is both very great in terms of optimizing the resources a Bard has, as well as being the flavorful phase of the party. And there is one more optimal and flavorful ability at level 6 for the Eloquence Bard, which is the ability to make their speech universally understood by all creatures. So this is essentially the equivalent of the spell Tongue, and I think it is a really great optimization in terms of resource management, as well as the ability to use your role as the face of the party to the maximum. So race here will be a little bit more dominant. So for the Tiefling, I'm looking at Silver Tongue. There is actually a very powerful subrace that I consider to be the best for the Battle World, which is Tiefling Devil's Tongue. So Devil's Tongue gives you several things. It gives you fire resistance, it gives you some extra spells including Vicious Mockery, which you already have. You have Charm Person as well as Enthrall. So these are all the phase abilities that can help you to engage situation with a bit more charisma. So moving on, we're going to talk about the Cleric. So Cleric is good at everything, and they're especially good at being the frontline caster because of armor proficiency. They are really good at being support, healing, as well as damage. So here we are looking for more flavorful representation. Every Cleric subclass works. I'm going to choose the Heal Dwarf. You can use heavy armor without penalty in movement speed. You have the ability to buff your HP as well as some poison resistance and weapon proficiency. So I think the Heal Dwarf is very good mechanically already, but in terms of their lore, dwarves actually serves their dwarf goddesses to get into war, to build armor and weapons, as well as just being a overall tough and hard to put down ally in the battlefield. So when it comes to their subclass, I actually love the Forge Domain. So Forge Domain to me is what a dwarf is about. Tough, and they're a huge tank to be in the battlefield for your allies. At level 1, they get the ability to buff up their armor class or weapon for non-magical purpose. And for level 6 and higher levels, you get increase in armor class again. You get resistance and later on immunity to fire, as well as some physical damages. So it cements your party role as the tough one who is hard to put down. Next up, we are going for the Druid. So although Druid, as I always say, is my favorite class, if you really play word by word to it, the Druid is actually not that great in optimization. The reason being that the Druid actually has a lot of limitations. For example, if your DM really plays strict, you can't wear metal armor, which means that you have to be stuck with leather light armor. And my DMs don't do this, but I can't say for everyone out there, so I'm gonna play straight and assume that I can't use medium armor. And there are also other spells of the Druid that requires a lot of clarifications and DM discretion. For example, conjure animals and wooden beings, whether the DM summon or you summon, etc. These are all the complications of a Druid, which is also why it's so fun to optimize. So for the Druid, I'm going to choose the Wood Elf. I think the Wood Elf really embodies what a Druid is about in these 4 books. It is a nature-oriented subrace, and it has a lot of beauty with the interaction of the nature, as well as being a presence that is ethereal and really represent the beauty of nature. So I like the Wood Elf. I think it's mechanically powerful, giving you the proficiency in the perception skill, giving you some extra movements, the ability to hide in more situations, and the usual elf goodies like advantage to charm and the ability to trance, etc. I think overall the Wood Elf is a very good fit. And now let's move on to the subclass selection of the Druid. And we are going for the subclass, which is probably going to surprise you again. In terms of optimization, I believe flavor as well as mechanics is both important. But I think the key here in terms of optimization is not that it is outright broken or strong. It is more about having the ability to build around your subclass to make it powerful. So I'm going for the Land Druid. Now for the Land Druid, I think it is mechanically weaker than the top tiers, like Stars or Moon at certain levels. But what the Land Druid offers you, number one is flavor. It works really well with the Wood Elf, being a nature's guardian and blessed by the nature most directly. And secondly, mechanically, it is actually very underrated. You get more spell casting every day. You get more spell options because of your expanded spell list. You get some situational abilities like Land Stride, but it really works with your spells. For example, you can cast Plant Growth. Because it is instantaneous, you can use Land Stride with it, so you can walk through the difficult terrain with no penalty. For example, at level 10, you have Poison Immunity. You can use the Cloud Kill spell because you have expanded spell list, and then you have immunity to poison, so you can pretty much just stand inside the Cloud Kill. And you can check out more regarding Cloud Kill the spell in my previous video. But overall, I think the Land Druid Wood Elf is a flavorful and a mechanically not optimized, but it's really fun to build with. And if you choose the right spells, you choose the right wild shape, it is the jack of all trades of the party. And in terms of fulfilling that role, it is optimized. So now we are moving on to the Sorcerer. So Sorcerer is a little bit interesting. I think the Sorcerer is limited in quite a lot of ways, but it is really powerful within those limitations. And meta magic is the key point here. You want to choose meta magics which gives you a lot of leverage, potency, so that every time you use meta magic, it feels like a event. For the Sorcerer, I'm going for the Aberrant's Mind. The reason being that, number one, the Aberrant's Mind is a very good meta magic user. You are basically getting the ability of psionic spells and psionic sorcery, which means that you can cast spells with subtle magic on, and this is already very powerful. So for example, you can use twinned meta magic to Tasha's Hideous Laughter, 1 extra sorcery points for double the impact on the battlefield. And since you're doing this with the automatic subtle cast from psionic sorcery, basically you are standing inside a room and suddenly 2 guys start to laugh. And this is such a great thing to roleplay, and I love the flavor of it. You can also quicken telekinesis and sunbeam at higher levels, And for telekinesis, you can do this again with psionic sorcery. So it is really fun to visualize, and I encourage you to look at the metamagic options and try this out. And on top of that, you also get the expanded spell list, which is very important for a sorcerer. You are getting some high impact spells like Tasha's Hideous Laughter, which is fantastic to be twinned. In terms of the subrace, I'm going for the half-elf drow. So the drow half-elf to me is really what makes the Aberrant's Mind more flavorful. For the Aberrant's Mind, usually you encounter some eldritch forces or some dark powers that gives you your powers. And for the drow, it is a more evil alignment species, as well as the probability of encountering more eldritch influence in the Underdark. So I think it is powerful already because it get the best ability spread, as well as some extra spells like Fairy Fire and Darkness. But it is also flavorful and makes the Aberrant's Mind really attractive to play for me. Now finally for the wizard. So the gnome to me really embodies what a wizard is about. They are small, they are fragile, but they are resistant against certain saving throws. That means that they have the ability to resist against many spell effects. And they have some tricks up their sleeves that lets people believe that they are having a higher intelligence and more plans than they may appear to be. So I really like the flavor of having a high intelligence gnome transversing the DnD universe as a wizard. And for the 3 subraces of the gnome, I'm going for the rock gnome. I think all 3 are good, but for the forest gnome, it's a little bit overlapping with the nature druid shenanigans. While for the deep gnome, it is a little bit overlapping with the aberrant mind sorcerer's influence as a drow. So I think the rock gnome really embodies what a wizard can do, just having some minor inventions, being curious and studying for their crafts. And this is a little bit of a homage to the Artificer, which is not official in the PHB right now. But overall, I think the rock gnome is going to bring a lot of flavor and a lot of interesting mechanics in story. The wizard primes in its ability to do utility and do creative things. The abilities the Conjuration Wizard brings exactly embodies that. At level 2, you are able to conjure little items, little tools to solve problems. At level 6, you can do some teleportations that comes back when you use conjuration spells. At higher levels, your conjuration items actually gets a buff that cannot be broken when taking damage for concentration. And you also get some temporary HP buffs for your summons. The key here is the ability to use your fun little toolkits to solve every problem that you may face. And Conjuration Wizard expand your capability to do these optimization in terms of utility. I'm going to do a little bit of recap for today's video. We're not diving deep into the details of the build. Instead, we are looking at some selection of subclasses and subrace within the confines of these 4 books. And you will notice that I didn't choose any human variants or custom lineage. These options by themselves are already optimized mechanically. And the key here, I want you to kind of understand my perspective, is that optimization is not just about being strong mechanically. It's also about building your character with flavor, with identity, with something that's so fun that just talking about it makes you happy. And I'm sure that my answer is not the answer. As I can tell, all these subclasses have stronger mechanical brothers and sisters. But here, I would like you to build your own character, try and really look into the books, and choose the things that you love to build. I really hope that it helps you in terms of selecting your subclasses and playing these 4 books and making your choices. And again, signing out. I hope you have a great day.